Our next speaker is Mr. Abdulhadi Hantash, expert on land and settlements. Mr. Hantash has worked at the Hebron municipality for more than 30 years. He has followed Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people and has testified for Israeli high courts and military rejection courts. He has written a number of reports on land confiscation that has been used in Israeli courts. He also testified 5 times before the UN Office of Human Rights and the International Court of South Africa. Currently, Mr. Hantash writes about Israeli land confiscation at the Hebron district. He spends most of his time in the field researching about land confiscation, which makes him an authority on the subject. It is a pleasure and honor to have you, sir, and the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I would like to thank you for inviting me to speak to you. I'd like this meeting's theme to be, does Israel really want peace? Because ever since Israel occupied the remainder part of Palestine, it was based on 3 main principles. The first principle is land, and for Israeli occupier, the aim is to set up a state which excludes anything that is not Jewish. And this is what was said by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The second principle is settlement. That is to expand Israeli settlements and to build new settlements and to allow settlers to build settlements, and has created outposts between the various official settlements, which it called the corridor, which means that Israeli occupying authorities want to link these outposts and settlements either through ring roads or through the expansion of current settlements in the area which it calls a corridor. The third principle is to forcibly displace the Palestinian people. The that does not necessarily mean that it is going to throw all the Palestinian people in the sea, as was said in 1998. In fact, what they did was that they expelled 750 Palestinians and left them to die in the wilderness in the cold. And we sued the Israeli occupier, and we succeeded in our lawsuit thanks to the support of international organizations, which allowed us to allow these to return to the caves where they were living. And we are wondering, why are they living in caves? In fact, they're living in caves because in 1996, the Israeli authorities issued 16 military orders in which it confiscated 250,000 nomes and declared the area a military area, and it emptied it of all its inhabitants forcibly. There are also 12 villages that will also be evacuated forcibly. And some of the lawyers have been able to enter this area in order to evacuate the inhabitants temporarily. And we know full well that these citizens, if they are evacuated, they will never be allowed to return. We are following up on their situation, and we are encouraging them to resist. The occupying authorities used to confiscate land through military orders and by declaring this property as a state property. But it moved to transferring these lands to settlers. Now there are two tendencies in the settlement policy. There is the public settlement, the official settlement, which we hear about, and the other aspect is what is called silent settlement that is not reported, not even by the media, not even the Israeli media, and we are monitoring this. I go on field visits, weekly field visits, in order to document whatever is the Israeli occupying authorities does, and I report on them. And this is one of the reports that was published in one of the American journals regarding the crimes committed by the Israelis. And you have probably not heard about these crimes. There are crimes that are not reported at all by the media and that we had not heard of, and they are horrendous. The Israeli occupying authorities, when they kill a Palestinian citizen, what they do is that the soldiers take pictures and souvenir pictures with the victim, and they sell these pictures for 3 shekels. No one has talked about these incidents. Not even the Israeli media has talked about these incidents. Unfortunately, in the West, everybody says, well, you know, Israel is a democracy, it is a sovereign country, and so on and so forth. In fact, it is far from being a democratic country. When a settler is accused of killing 11 Palestinians, he is forced to remain under house arrest only for 1 month. That's what happened in Bethlehem, which means that those settlers who burned Palestinian people alive, their punishment was to move the settlers from one place to another. Is that what you call justice? Israeli occupation is intensifying settlement activities, and as I have said, the silent settlement is much more dangerous than the official settlement activity. In fact, it is carried out by settlers, by private settlers who have contacts in the Israeli government and contacts with Jewish terrorist organizations. They confiscate Palestinian land. The Israeli authorities issue a military order which prohibits the Palestinian owner to return to that land, or they declare the area as a military area. The only result is that the Palestinians have to leave the land, as was said by one of the Knesset parliamentarians in 1972, and he said literally, in fact, there is no Zionism without settlement, and there is no settlement without expelling the Palestinians from their land and fencing that land in, which means that there is an insistence on confiscating Palestinian land. Yes, settlements are an obstacle to peace. Yes, occupation is an obstacle to peace. The Palestinian Authority has been negotiating for over 18 years to no avail. And finally, Yasser Arafat was accused of not being mature enough to sign a peace treaty, and Abbas is being accused of the same thing. In fact, Netanyahu is the biggest danger, the biggest threat to the peace process. All these crimes have never been reported. They have never been registered by historians. Israeli occupation is intensifying settlement activity, especially in Jerusalem. The Israelis are Judaizing Jerusalem. on the inside by carrying out excavations under the Al-Aqsa Mosque. They are also moving military troops from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, expelling the Palestinians, withdrawing their ID documents, and demolishing houses. This we hear about every day. You also have the internal roads, such as Road 4, Road 1, 5, 14. There are many roads. These roads are part of an Israeli road network which was planned from the beginning. Israel built 1,300 kilometers of roads inside the occupied territories. The Israeli authorities, since the Palestinians are not allowed to use these roads, they are now called sterile roads or purified roads. They consider that Palestinians are microbes or viruses that cannot use these purified roads or sterile roads. Regarding Jerusalem, the Israeli authorities are trying to separate Jerusalem from the rest of the West Bank. There are three plans in order to encircle Jerusalem, such as the A30 plan, which is from east of Jerusalem, starts with the Latrun area, going through West Jerusalem, and the village of Walajah, which is Israel confiscated 2,000 dunams in order to build more than 5,000 settlement units. And the Israeli authorities in 2014 issued a military order by virtue of which it confiscated 4,000 dunams from Palestinian village Sawrif, Beit Omar in Hebron, and Jab'a al-Jab'a, and Hussan, and Wadi Fukim in the district of Bethlehem.
The other project is the E1 project, which is East number 1, which means that there will be more plans having more numbers. So it is a plan to merge three major settlements into one settlement. It is Alamon, Kfar Adumim, Alon, Kedar, etc. For this purpose, it has confiscated 12,000 dunams from Palestinian land. The surface area of this project is 32,000 dunams. The Israeli authorities have started executing this project. They have built an Israeli occupation police precinct near Ma'ali Adumim settlement. This police precinct is called a window overlooking the project. The Israeli authorities have started implementing this project away from the eyes of the media. A new Israeli settlement project has been inaugurated. The settlement is called Mifasert Adumin, which is not far from Al-Mukabber area. Mukabber area is targeted by this merging project that will link it to the city of Jerusalem. Palestinians will be denied access to the northern West Bank because of this project. The Israeli authorities have isolated the city of Jerusalem. There is only one road, which is a ring road, that takes to this city. It's road number 40. It is 16 meters road. It is surrounded with roadblocks and barbed wire. Palestinians are denied access to go either left or right. There's another project aimed at Judaizing the city of Jerusalem, which is the linking of the city to the Dead Sea. Israel confiscated areas in the Jordan Valley, which is rich in water resources. We'll talk about water resources later on if I have the occasion to. In 1967, 250,000 dunams were confiscated from the Yatta area that we have just mentioned. There's the area stretching from the Jordan Valley and Yatra. Also, in 2009, in June 2009, there was a military order whereby 98,000 dunams were confiscated from the outskirts of Jericho to the outskirts of Hebron. This completes the entire circle. Israel wants to fully implement a loans project which was put together in 1970. All these projects have not been brought up by anybody. They were not relayed in the media or any other source. Any person who criticizes Israel is accused of anti-Semitism. So I do question this accusation. Why Israel, by trying to displace the Palestinians, is being anti-Semitic? Because the Palestinians are Semites. So Israel actually believes its own lies and it tries to convince the entire world of its lies. So I think the international community, the world community, should be courageous enough to criticize Israel. Well, Israel is not a monster. Is Israel above the law? Why Israel is given a free hand to go about its things freely? When a Palestinian tries to defend his own rights, he is accused of terrorism. Isn't Israel a terrorist state? Isn't Israel an apartheid state, a racist state? Well, these are the attributes of the occupation, the Israeli occupation. I have seen in my very eyes how the Israeli soldiers have led the settlers living in the old city of Jerusalem to commit murders and crimes. So the Israeli soldiers are launching and unleashing police dogs and are even shooting at Palestinians. I'm not saying this because I read it in the media. I'm a man who works in the field, and I continuously follow up the situation on the field. There are crimes. If I have the occasion, I would like to brief you on these crimes. There are kinds of unprecedented kinds of crimes committed by the Israeli soldiers or the settlers. There are Zionist terrorist organizations who cooperate with the Israeli army. The members of those organizations are the grandsons of former Jewish terrorist organizations, Stern, Haganah, and other organizations. But I don't think the world is blind, but lacks courage. Israel acts as if it was above the law, beyond any criticism. But how long will this situation continue? I am telling you, and I'm telling the international community, and I'm asking you, please do not put the Palestinian people at bay, because this will lead to a disaster, a real disaster, not only on the region, but on the entire world. If you push us to the corner, we will have, or against the wall, we will have nothing to lose. We will use all the means at our disposal to defend ourselves. This resistance is guaranteed by the Fourth Geneva Convention and international law. Thank you.